So there's a lot of videos online talking about how if you just follow these 10 different AI business models, you'll make your first 10K in a month, right? Or even worse, you can use AI to build an AI startup that you can sell. Like, I don't even know, it just gets crazier and crazier, right? And the purpose of this video is to give you a no BS guide to starting your AI business. And that includes the struggles, right? That includes where you're gonna struggle if you wanna go on this journey, because that is actually the most important part, right? So before we get started, my name is Jeet. I run Applied GPT. We help businesses implement custom AI solutions to save time and money. And I'm a year and a half into this business journey. I made more than the median American business owner. And I just want to share, I just want to give away the secrets and tell you exactly what I went through to get to this point right now. And hopefully, this is more like to myself. If I were to sit myself down a year and a half back and say, day one, this is what I need to know if I want to be successful in this industry. That is what this video is about. So let's get started. First is traffic. So you don't have a business until you have clients, right? Just because you have a website, just because you have a business card, just because you have an LLC, which I wouldn't even recommend you do if you're just starting out, that doesn't mean you have a business, right? You have a real, you're in game now, right? It's game time when you actually have a client that you're actually doing work for. So traffic is going to be getting these clients to see your business, right? Because what you're going to notice is that just because you post a website, you're not going to have any people going to that website, right? That's why SEO and all that stuff exists, but it's going to be hard, right? So you need to push, manually force people to see your stuff, and that is where outreach comes in. First is going to be warm outreach. Warm outreach is basically, it's warm because it's people you already know, right? So this could be family, it could be friends. It could be acquaintances, previous clients, if you're in an industry before. It could be followers, right? People that are already following you. The point is, these people know you're not a scammer, right? They know that you're a real person, that you're probably a decent human being. And if you ask them if I can do this free project for you, right? Don't charge when you're starting. I only charge a couple $100 max. Then they would be willing to take on that. So that is why when you're starting out, just start off with warm outreach. That's the easiest, quickest, fastest way to get your client. And that first client is the hardest one. Right, the first one is, it only gets easier from there. So let's keep going. If you happen to not have anybody, which actually is possible, everybody talks about how, somebody in your network will know, I didn't have anyone, right? So second thing is going to be cold outreach. This is reaching out to a cold audience. Cold because they don't know you. You're going to be reaching out to strangers to convince them to buy your stuff. In terms of the actual tactical advice here, there's two channels that I would personally recommend. There's many different ways of going about it. First is cold email. I think cold email, in my opinion, is the best way to do it because you're going to be reaching out to business owners, right? And these their phone number is not readily available. And even if it is, they're going to be in between me. It's a lot harder to kind of have that sales ability through a phone to convince somebody to kind of get on a call versus a cold email. Cold email, there's still a pretty big learning curve, but I think it's still easier than having to kind of go the cold call route. And another other alternatives is DMing people on Instagram, LinkedIn, and all that stuff. I've done all of that. And it works. It's not bad. I would say I have gone a good amount of calls through there. But cold email, in my opinion, is if you just focus on getting this one skill, you will never have to worry about getting clients again. To an extent, right? I say that to that extent because that's actually changing now. There was a time where you could just cold email a bunch of people, and assuming your messaging's right, assuming you're reaching out to the right person, and assuming everything is on point, you will get book calls. We're kind of heading in a trust recession. That's what Ravi Abuwala calls it. But basically, people are getting more and more, let's just say, more suspicious of people that are reaching out cold, right? So that gets into the whole thing. But I would recommend if you're starting out, just do cold email, right? And say that you're going to do free work, right? Say you'll do it for free, that you're a university student if you're in college, and that you'll it doesn't matter what take you make it, right? Just use what you have to an advantage. You're entering the AI industry and you want to help these businesses, or you're doing it for a research project. It doesn't matter. You just need to find a way to get them to get on a call with you, which is the next step. But before we continue, content is the third pillar, right? Content I think is a lot harder. When I started, I did not do content, and content is getting more and more important as time goes on to actually build that trust, and it goes hand in hand with the cold outreach. The problem is, even though everybody tells you to start making content, if you're just starting out, you're not going to know what you're talking about, right? You have never done a project in the first place. You've never done anything in the AI industry. And when you're making content, you want to try to make it tailored to your audience. So it's like a catch-22. You can start it. I would recommend me starting on the side, right? I started my Twitter on the side, and I was kind of just posting the stuff that I learned along the way. You can also do the same thing. If you're learning AI from scratch, maybe you can just post what you're learning from scratch, because there will be somebody else who's interested in learning about AI that's at the same level as you, right? You don't need to be an AI expert, like be in the industry for 10, 20 years to do this. The point is like, don't, but also don't be a guru either, right? Don't just say like, I know everything and like, this is how you do it. Just say like, this is what I'm learning, this is what I learned, and people will be so much more receptive. The fourth way is going to be ads, and this is, I mean, I don't even think you should really consider this. I put this in here because it's like the fourth method of reaching out to people, but it's going to cost money, right? The difference is, if you're new to this, if you haven't read $100 Million Leads by Alex Hormozi, cold outreach and content, right? It's not guaranteed that they see your stuff. Just because you put a YouTube video, it doesn't mean everybody I want to see this video is going to see this video. The algorithm has to rank it there, right? With cold outreach, cold email, like not everybody that's you send out an email to, they're gonna actually see it, right? It can be like marked as spam. They might not see it. They might like just filter it out. Like it doesn't matter. Cold call, same thing, right? They might not pick up the phone if you have the wrong phone, like all that stuff. With ads, it's guaranteed that they see your ad, right? It's guaranteed that they're gonna see it. And so the difference is you're paying to actually see, you're paying so that they actually see the ad. And so the problem shifts from them, having to actually get them to see it, to just figuring out an ad that actually converts, that actually gets them to book a call. That's the difference, and I went on a bit of a tangent here, but don't worry about ads. Right? You're gonna need money. It costs a lot of money. Not a lot, but I would say like, at least a couple $1,000s to start off with. And the worst part is if you're just starting out, you don't have an offer to sell. You don't even know what works. And you don't have case studies if you do find an offer that works. So like it's just downhill, right? Nobody recommends starting off with that. Note, this is the hardest part, right? This is the hardest, like nobody talks about this, but traffic is like the single hardest thing when you're starting a business, in any business. And I'm still struggling with this right now, right? That's one of the reasons I'm making this content. Even though I'm getting leads every single day, it's not enough in the long, and like most small to medium-sized businesses want more leads, right? This is a bit of a side tangent, but if you notice, right, a lot of people made a lot of money through like a social media marketing agency. That social media marketing agency, like the reason why they made so much money is because they're helping businesses get more leads, like get more prospects, is that is their constraint. And so for all of us, if we're going to start off, and like if you're just going to start this off, and that includes me as well, right? This is not something like exclusive. You're going to need more traffic no matter what. So that is what this solves. So you should be, if you have 0 clients, you should be spending most of your day on cold, warm outreach and maybe content, right? If you want to go into it, but realize content is a long game. You're not going to see any results for like at least 3 to 4 months. And probably more, right? You need a significant amount of following to even like get somewhere with it. So that's why I recommend just sticking to cold outreach. So again, I'm gonna say it one more time. This is the hardest part right here, right? Getting people to see that you exist. From there, we go to the sale, right? The difference with AI, right? This is AI specific, is that people don't just click on buy now and actually get your service, right? Because this is a high ticket service. A high ticket meaning it's more than $1,000. You're gonna be charging quite a bit of money when you actually start getting case studies and you start doing this thing, right? So people want to get on a call with you and see how you are as a person, whether they trust you, whether you can actually deliver on what you're saying. And that is what the purpose of the sales calls is, right? So once you have the traffic, once they see your stuff and they're like, okay, I'm kind of interested, I think this person could help me, they get on a call, right? And you can use like a Calendly. You could just set up through email, it doesn't really matter. The framework I use, I'm just telling you what has worked for me, is a 2-call close. 2-call close basically, so closing is actually converting that person that's a prospect, a lead, into an actual client, right? That is what closing that's what closing that lead is. And in terms of how we go about doing this, how I'm going about doing this is first is a consultation, right? And it's just like consultation, discovery call, it doesn't really matter. The purpose of the first call is to see if whether we're a fit, right? That means he or she's going to tell me about their problems, what they're facing. I'm going to tell them pretty honestly whether AI can solve it or not. From there, right, if we are a fit, I build a scoping document, right? And this is super, super important. In AI, and I think this is somewhat AI specific, that's why I'm telling you this, scope creep becomes like a real big deal, right? Because AI is very vague, right? And the people that are reaching out to you, they're not going to know what it is. That's why they're reaching out to you. So you're going to have like in their head these like different like imaginary things like, oh, I want this thing and this thing. If you don't put that down in writing, you're just going to do everything they're saying, and there's going to be no way for you to kind of like put a barrier, like put your boundaries up, right? And that's why I had to go through that a couple times. You probably will as well when you're starting. And you can't do anything, right? You need those clients, you need those case studies in the start. So you have to do the work that needs to be done. But I'm telling you this because that's a mistake I made. From that scoping document that you make, you have a closing call. So in this closing call, there's no sales here in the traditional sense. I'll go more into that. You just show them the scoping document, show them the work that needs to be done, the statement of work, and say, is this what you're looking for? Have I covered everything that you want out of this project? If the answer is yes, you give the price, and you start working, right? If you're a fit. If you're not, then you can kind of start going into some sales tactics and give different incentives and stuff. But here's something that's kind of important, and it's something I've noticed that I haven't heard anybody else talk about. I think AI is a pretty low sales situation. What that means is you don't need to be a salesman to sell AI stuff. The reason why is because the AI is kind of taking that burden off of you, right? Technology, this is something that Alex Hormozi always talks about, but technology fundamentally operates what humans are doing, right? If it can do it better, faster, and cheaper than a human, then what business wouldn't want to take on that service, right? And so that is what you're selling, that you are selling the AI, and that, and like, it's good because like when you're a beginner, you need to, like, you will have to pick up your sales abilities at some point. But if you can like convince the client that this AI will solve their problem, that is all that needs to be done, right? You don't need to kind of maneuver your way around the tonality, and like you can do that, right? That will help. But it's not like gym membership level where you can kind of be like an amazing salesman to kind of get what you're looking for. And that's a plus, right? That's a plus because that's one less skill that you need to worry about. And when you're starting out, you need to kind of build all these skills at the same time before you start making money. Second thing, I mean, I already talked about this, but scope creep is a very, very real thing. If you don't make it clear to your client what needs to be done, they're just gonna, I mean, they're gonna abuse you sometimes even without knowing it, right? It's just like they just did not think that, they thought the whole thing was part of the project, and in your mind you had one thing. So make sure you make it in writing what needs to be done, and make it like super clear so that they also know what they're paying for, right? It's like a two-way communication thing. You have the sale, and you get your first couple clients, right? That's where fulfillment comes in. So fulfillment, I mean, I'm going to kind of breeze through this, but doing the AI work, I've kind of divided this into two different things, and this is something I've noticed across all the projects I've done. There's the AI part and there's the software engineering. So first, the AI part. Like right now, when I say AI, we're probably talking about just Gen AI, but realize that there's also NLP, right? There's clustering models, GLM. There's a lot of different stuff in AI, but I mean, if you want to get started, yes, Gen AI, generative AI specifically, will be the easiest. It has the lowest learning curve. And within that, there's two subcategories, right? There's open source and there's closed sourced models, LMs. So closed source LMs are things like OpenAI, Gemini, right? Google's model. More recently, Mistral, right? They had their own closed source model. And the benefit here is they're taking care of the infra, right? The infrastructure, right? They're taking care of like actually like running and, making sure the models are running 24/7. So all you have to do is just call their API and get a response back. So the problem just breaks down into like a prompt engineering level stuff, along with, there's RAG, there's guardrails, there are some other stuff, right? But at its core here, you're just kind of maneuvering and like massaging this model to give you what you want. And that, I mean, it's not too bad, right? The learning curve there isn't terrible. Open source models, on the other hand, they are getting better, right? But these are models that you need to kind of run by yourself, right? You might need to fine tune them. There will be a lot of work, right? Closed source models, think of it like 200 IQ level, right? GPT-4 is 200 IQ. Open source, like even the best one these days is like 30, maybe 50 IQ, right? It's getting better every single day, right? With Llama and, Meta's new models, but it's still not up to grade for, production standards. And I mean, I'll make more videos about this, right? But it's a lot tougher to kind of deploy this in production and make it actually work and give business value compared to a closed source model. That's the first part. Second is going to be software engineering, right? So a lot of people, online are saying that you don't need to know how to code, or like you can use no-code tools, and you can, right? You can totally use no-code tools, like especially for chatbots, like VoiceFlow, BotPress, even Stack AI. You can use it, but I will say, you're going to be paying a lot more for that kind of stuff. For chatbots, yes, you like use no-code tools, but for any kind of custom solution, you're much, much better off just building these things from scratch, like using code, like using simple Python. And that's just me being honest with you, right? It's gonna be a lot cheaper for the client. It's gonna be easier for you to develop, right? You can use ChatGPT to help you with the software engineering. But most custom solutions, and like most people in this industry who are making money, have some kind of custom solution, right? If you try to do the same thing, and this is another key insight, if you try to kind of productize and niche this thing down, it's going to turn into a SaaS, right? If you're doing the same thing over and over for like the same client again and again, you have to build a SaaS, or else it doesn't make sense. And the SaaS game it's like 10 levels above what you're probably starting off as a beginner, right? Like the SaaS game is very hard. And so even though I'm going on a tangent, my point here is either have this or you don't, right? If you already know how to code, if you already have software engineering experience, picking up the AI, like specifically the closed source part, is not too bad. If you have the AI part, right, if you've already built models and maybe work in industry, or maybe you had a college education, then learning the software engineering, you probably know enough, or you can learn enough to get to actually kind of be up to par, with this kind of business model. But if you don't have both, right, it's like you're gonna have a pretty steep learning curve. Just being honest here, and I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying you're gonna have to learn quite a bit of stuff. You're gonna have to learn how to code, as well as you're gonna have to learn like the AI piece as well, right? Which is a lot, and you can do that. You totally can. But like, keep in mind, for me personally, I studied computer science and statistics. Before starting this business, I already worked in industry in data science and software engineering, right? And, in the cloud space as well. So like, those are my like unique advantages. And when I had this opportunity, I just like, I didn't have to worry too much about the fulfillment. When I started, like, I obviously had to learn the Gen AI piece because Gen AI is so new, right? But like, I hope you're seeing my point here, right? If you don't have these two, you're going to have to like, there's going to be a lot of work you're going to have to put in specifically in the fulfillment. And this part right here, traffic, is going to be your big problem as well. So like act accordingly. You can totally do it, and there's nothing wrong with it. I'm just kind of giving you the heads up here, right? Because on the other hand, right, like the reason why I'm saying this, if you're already good at something else, like let's say like design or building websites, or like, it doesn't matter. If you already have another high income skill, realize then you only need to worry about traffic, right? You don't need to worry about fulfillment, because AI has its own set of problems. Just because you're in the AI industry doesn't kind of, it doesn't like remove the fact that you're gonna have to run a business and you're gonna have issues, right? Every business has its own issues, and every business can grow to the level you're looking for. So that's my little, I guess, word of caution, right? You can totally learn these two things. I mean, there's people online that have done it, that have kind of built successful business around it, but that is kind of what you're dealing with. Those are like the roadblocks you're gonna face if you don't already know how to do it. So I hope this was useful, right? This is like a high level framework. Notice how this kind of applies to any business: traffic, sale, fulfillment. Like, every business goes through the same thing. But I hope, these little takeaways, like the little things, are enough for you to keep in mind when you're starting your AI business. If you guys have any more questions, concerns, like comments, just comment down below what you guys think about this kind of format and style. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.